Closing arguments are expected to begin tomorrow morning in what's being called the biggest attempt to defraud the city of Jacksonville. Prosecutors contend former JEA executives Aaron Zahn and Ryan Wannemacher could have walked away with millions if they were successful in selling the public utility. News4Jax reporter Jim Pickett has been covering this case from the start and raised objections today when he and other media members were told they had to leave the courtroom.
I got to tell you, it was a very interesting day in federal court. We actually heard from the man who uncovered all of this, a city auditor who discovered this and then raised a lot of questions. But I want to start with when we were told to leave the courtroom today, and it wasn't only us, it was the prosecution as well. Many were surprised when the judge ordered the public, media, and the prosecution out of the courtroom. Also, one of the two juries had to leave, while the jury, which will decide the fate of Ryan Wannemacher, stayed and heard testimony. We have no idea what was said, though attorneys had indicated it would be a statement Aaron Zahn gave to city attorneys in January of 2020. Because of the nature of the statement, it had to be handled a certain way in court. We asked WJXT attorney Ed Burke, who also specializes in First Amendment rights, about the courtroom being cleared.
It's very unusual to close a proceeding and exclude the public, exclude the press, but also exclude the prosecution while the jury is hearing evidence. It's an unusual situation because we had this administrative investigation, call it a Garrity hearing. Garrity is a case name from federal courts, and the goal or the purpose of it is to allow defendants to use certain evidence without having the prosecution know what that is, and also without tainting the jury about that evidence.
Ed Burke says we're trying to learn more and actually is trying to find out if closing this is allowed.
WJXT is looking at its options now for whether to appeal that decision, to get guidance from the appellate court, the 11th Circuit, to determine whether that was a correct decision. And the reason to do that, the purpose of doing that, is so there'll be guidance for the trial judges in the future.
But that's not all that happened. Today, we also heard from this man, Jeff Rada, who many say actually uncovered the bonus scheme. Rada came up with a list of questions about how much the plan could have paid out to Zahn, Wannemacher, and other executives. Jeff Rada is an auditor with the city of Jacksonville and ran the calculations over 4 years ago. And he came up with questions wondering why and how this could pay out so much. There were also some motions that were taken up at the end of the day, but the judge said, well, he did see that there is enough evidence in this case to go to the jury on this. He said, even though that sale didn't take place, there were lots of numbers and there might have been a conspiracy. But we're going to find out what the jury thinks after they hear closing arguments tomorrow, and then they will begin deliberations. From the federal courthouse, Jim Pickett, Channel 4, the local station.